went to the university library and hit it with a vengeance, reading all the books they had in their collection on India. Identity is at the crux of all of these things. We belong to a group that talks about open, syncretic belief systems. In Sanatan Dharma, we have got so many guideposts in Dharma Shastras, in a whole lot of works on Vedanta and other things. Your identity helps you to navigate life. So in the Indic tradition, every sampradaya says acquire knowledge. We are seekers. We question everything. Indians only have Jati, Varna, Kulam, Gotra. One of the earliest mentions we have of eclipses is in Rig Veda. We are not monolithic. We have dharma, we got karma, we got reincarnation. These are our common assets over here.
Namaste and welcome, Raji. It's
Namaste.
wonderful to have you with us on Hindu Parents Network. And we look forward to really learning a lot today on this session. And before we start, I would just like to do the Ganesh Vandana. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. So I just wanted to introduce Raji to our audience. Of course, he's a well-known academician and a professor, also involved with the University of America. And he's an engineer, a doctorate in electrical engineering, I believe.
Right? Yes, that's my background, yes.
Yes. And so beyond that, I am curious to first start off with asking, how did you get so involved in learning about Bharat's history, about our legacy?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Thank you, Sukanya ji. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be on the HPN platform. So thank you for inviting me. My apologies for starting a little late. So to answer that question, I need to go deep into my childhood. I was born and brought up in Bangalore, cosmopolitan place, and we had a very, very cosmopolitan upbringing in the sense that I attended Christian institutions all the way from my kindergarten till my 12th grade. I was in Christian institutions, Catholic to be precise, and the exposure to westernization is tremendous. So the deracination, as it were, Bangalore is a place where you can easily get deracinated, but attending Catholic schools in addition makes things a whole lot worse. But luckily for us, we were a practicing Hindu family. So parents would observe all the different festivals, all the observances, the samskaras, everything were practiced in our house. We had Ganapati Homa, we had Satyanarayana Puja and everything. So we had a very good mix of Sanatana Dharma as well as what outsiders are talking about us. Of course, we were kids and there's no way to rationalize the thoughts. It's a jumble of whole lot of different things in our minds. So all through school, I remember that my mind would push back what is being taught in class when they talk about history of India, saying that, we are learning that India is such an ancient place at home. And my father had a big library, by the way, of books. He had books on Chimayananda's discourses, Shivananda's discourses, many books on that. We used to subscribe to Bhavan's journal. So I used to read all these things and because you must remember, I grew up at a time when TV was not there in India. So to get our entertainment, we were desperate for entertainment, right? Comic books and any storybook you can get your hands on. So I'd look at the Bhavan Journal, see where are the stories there, Krishnavatara and Somnath and all these kind of things. I would read these things. And so I had such a rich upbringing, can say, in terms of exposure to Sanatana Dharma, as well as exposure to Western ideas. But this conflict in my mind is always there. It was not possible to articulate as a kid. So, but the reading was going on, trying to read more and more, trying to understand more, though it was in pursuit of entertainment rather than knowledge, but it was there. Read books like Rajagopalchari's books on Mahabharata, Ramayana, things of that nature, K.M. Munshi's translations, so many things that I've read as a kid. Then going on to, I think this is the state of affairs even through my engineering, as well as I did my master's at IISc in Bangalore. And same kind of thing. You have a very deracinated crowd around you that looks down on Sanatana Dharma. But I would always say, as a scientist, I need to keep an open mind. Try to see where is the where are the narratives? How did they even come in over here? Who put these narratives out there? And when I came to the US in 90 for my PhD, I experienced culture shock. Although I came from a cosmopolitan, westernized background, playing rock music and things of that nature in Bangalore, I was experiencing culture shock. I turned that into an inward journey, went to the university library and hit it with a vengeance, reading all the books they had in their collection on India. And I still remember the Dewey classification system is DS. The DS section is India. I used to read indiscriminately, whether it was a communist book, whether it was a missionary book, whether it was an authentic Indian lens book, without an understanding to read them. My roommate would say, Raj, have you come here to do a PhD in engineering or in India? I used to tell him, I had this burning desire to learn more about who we are, why we are where we are, and why is this society where it is. So eventually, I started seeing patterns. I started seeing patterns in the way India is narrated out there. In my mind, the divisions, just like a researcher, I was able to put them, okay, these people speak like this, these people speak like this, these people speak like this. And the desire was there to go to the sources. On what basis did they make those claims? And still in those 90s, it was not easy to get by knowledge. But when 2000s came along, Google came along, and suddenly the world was open with a whole lot of knowledge sources. Google in around 2007 started putting books online, rare books online. And that opened the floodgates. Suddenly, I had resources to colonial texts and things like that were not available earlier. I was able to go, who is the person who started this kind of thinking? Why, how, and those kind of things. So by the time we come to 2010, I amassed such a body of knowledge that it's time to start talking about it. And my good friend Jayakumar Srinivasan, who's now in Coimbatore in Arsha Seva Kendram, so he and I started a group in 2012 for history awareness, creating an awareness in history in Houston, Texas. We did that. And we started giving talks through that, small talks initially. Then later, I found that while talking to a very deracinated audience, I was thinking, what can I talk to a deracinated, westernized Indian audience about Indian history? Then it hit my mind, why don't I talk about the evidence for the Indian civilization? So when I talked about that, I suddenly found that even people who are normally loath to go anywhere near Sanatana Dharma or talking about it, they were listening to every word I had to say. And I knew I got a winning combination here. If I talk about science, bring in the scientific evidence, evidence based narration, minds are opened. People are willing to listen rather than my going and saying, it is there in this Brahmana, Saranyaka. No, they will not listen. They will say, so what? But the minute I go with the scientific evidence, suddenly people want to know, really? Let me understand this and see what it's all about. So from 2000, I started giving talks. I started giving talks with a scientific bent of mind. And this body of evidence has continued to grow over the last 12 years or so. And now we have amassed so much of knowledge about the Bharatiya civilization. So you can say that it is this background, having started from Bangalore, deracinated, westernized, Christianized education system, that led me to Sanatana Dharma. Long answer to your question, but I hope that answers it.
No, but it's beautifully answered because it kind of shows us that needing to ask questions, needing to question things, ask why this, why that, which is so ingrained in Sanatan. It's as if we are born with it almost. Even if you were going to all Catholic schools, it seems like it was there because it was in your environment. It was in the culture of your home. And So that is the part that if we can impart that to our students here, you know, that's perfect that you said that you didn't let go of it, even though it could have been easy for you. So many of us do that, but you did it. And so that brings me to the question is, how do we sort of help parents understand, Hindu parents here in the diaspora in the United States, understand why understanding our history, learning about our history, where we come from is important. How can we do that? Why is it important for the kids in the West to learn about it? Because, you know, they'll be like, well, I live here. Why do I need to know? How would you answer that?
Excellent. So can I take the liberty of showing a presentation I made to an Indian group in Boston on this very same topic? I'll skim through it. I'm not going to give the whole presentation. So I'll just skim through it. Let me first locate it. I think it is, I think it is this, but I think I'll skip between one or two presentations because this answers exactly what the crux of your question. So let me share my screen. Oh, you'll need to give me permission to share. So the technical person, please give me permission to share and I'll share. So what I'm going to show is something on identity. Okay. Because identity is at the crux of all of these things. We have so many advocacy groups today trying to highlight. And you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
So this is a talk that I gave way back in June 2022 in Boston, I believe. Mm-hmm. So the question is, what is our identity? And I tried to tell the audience was this is in Boston in a group called Shishu Vihar, I think. I may get the name wrong, but they had a school where they teach their youngsters, and that graduation ceremony, I gave the keynote talk. And I try to talk to the children. There's a children-based talk over here, but parents also get it. So first of all, when you talk about identity today, you got things like personal identifiers, passports, licenses. And today you also have, you know, if you have your iPhone, your face is your identity, your thumbprint is your identity, your iris is your identity, and your appearance, right? Big, small, all those kind of things. Those are the things in identity. And also your personality is part of your identity, your abilities, talents, likes, and you might be extroverted, introverted, stable, unstable. All these go towards defining who your identity is. And I, pardon me for this example that I've taken here. It's not the best of examples, but on relationship, we have got that identity too. We belong to a family, brothers, sons, neighbor, friends, so many relations that we form in the world, as well as identity on language, political, professional, that I belong to this country, or I'm from this state, I speak this language, or I'm a doctor or an engineer, and things of this nature. And also we have, in scientific terms, we have other kinds of a genetic identity. Who are we as in terms of genetics, or a cultural identity as well? What are the kind of things we form? So I wanted to emphasize that there are many, many angles to identity, including the philosophical, or we can call it religious, about who we are and our belief system, about why we are here and who am I, to answer these very big questions. What is my purpose on earth? Those kind of things. We belong to a group that talks about open, syncretic belief systems with Mahavakyas, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, and these kind of very, very evolved systems where the realization of Brahman is the goal of life. It is in contrast to exclusivist, closed belief systems where they say, I am the only way to Father is through the Son, or you submit to the will of Allah. So those are closed systems, and there is no respect for anybody else. On this one, there is an open syncretic belief where we look for the good everywhere. We see Brahman everywhere, and we try to say, I am this, not that. And this kind of thinking is over here. So I emphasize this particular aspect of identity and answer, why is it important? It answers existential questions. Who am I? Who do I want my future self to be? I'm a school kid today. But tomorrow, what do I want to be? Who is my role model? Do I want to be like a rock star? Do I want to be a druggie? professional? Do I want to be a sevak? What do I want to be? How should I live my life? All these things, your identity is the one that has guideposts to help you to that. So your identity leads you to certain thoughts, words, and actions, how you express yourself in life. That comes through your identity. And that leads to the relationships you will make in life. That leads to the habits you'll have. It leads to the hurt, struggles, how you deal with these things. And this karmic cycle that goes hopefully through a positive change to reinforce your identity. And this is who you become. So in Sanatan Dharma, we have got so many guideposts in Dharma Shastras, in a whole lot of works on Vedanta and other things that tell us this path leads, a Satvika path leads you to an understanding of Brahman. You may not accomplish it in one lifetime. You may not accomplish it just by doing 5 minutes, 10 minutes of meditation. But the idea is that you accrue karma, and through lifetimes, many lifetimes, hopefully we'll get better and better at this. So one must discover, develop a potential, choose purpose, and you should find opportunities to exercise that potential and purpose, whether it is through seva, whether it is through charity, whether it is through good works, whether it's to talk about Sanatan Dharma to people who don't know it, and these kind of things. One must do this. This is who identity is. And I also show to parents who ask, why do I care about all these things? I hope I've given you one aspect that your identity helps you to navigate life. If you don't know who you are, you're a deracinated person, it's a bastardized identity. I'm neither here nor I am there. And you have no idea how you're navigating life. You might say, I'm humane, I absorb all the good things in life. But unfortunately, you are still under attack, whether you call yourself Sanatan Dharmic or otherwise, because of the association people make with your facial appearance and other such things. Your identity is under attack. And again, to talk about identity under attack, I have to explain to children. So I say in today's world, you can have identity theft. You can have digital ID theft, your password is stolen. Or you can have defamation, slander, libel, gossip, rumors. Children understand these things. Yes, these are the ways my identity is under attack. Or your personality is under attack. For example, you might eat tons of junk food that is highly processed and so on and so forth, leading to all of these conditions, depression, appetite, anxiety, energy, and all these things making you extroverted. So you yourself are attacking yourself with too much of junk food. Your relationships can be under attack through wokeness and others, joint families based on interdependence, but now with overwhelming expression of independence, financial pressures, you got nuclear families, and wokeism is an offshoot of socialist ideas, right? Where every aspect of our relationship is under attack, whether it is the parental relationships, whether it is the relationships we form with society, or even the attack on yourself, your gender identity and other such things are under attack over here. And so many attacks are happening. And we have many expressions in today's schools. For example, in 2022, this video was going around where an Indian school kid was being bullied by somebody else in the lunchroom because he's an Indian, nothing more than that. I tried to give lunchroom bullies where people make snack of this Mexican girl for getting tacos, and a teacher helps her to say, direct that anger inwards and excel at what you're doing. So tomorrow you can really be better. It's a children's cartoon, but still it helps to resonate a little bit over here. And once again, classrooms, your identity is under severe attack. Whether the textbooks that our children are reading in the classroom, when it describes their cultural background or heritage or their parents' background, they squirm in classrooms, right? Because they talk so beautifully about the Greek civilization, about Christianity, about Islam, Judaism, beautiful pictures to accompany all of these things, show the best of it in the best language possible. But when it comes to India, they show cows, they show slum, they show children working like this, they show monkeys and other such things. So this is the picture of India that they want to communicate. And clearly our identity is under attack over here. If you have 4 pages to talk about India and all they can show is this, you must understand the amount of hatred that is out there. But this is what our children are facing. And identity is under attack everywhere. Sana shares in Atlanta, where a vegetarian diet is mocked and boys throw salami beef at the Hindu kids' plate at lunchtime, and people are ashamed or mocked for cow worship and attack. Whether you go to Wikipedia or other such places, the persecution of Hindus is denied. For example, while Hindus have experienced historical ongoing persecution, these events are to be viewed in the historical context, whereas no such caveat is attached to persecution of Hindus or Muslims. So you see, even your experiences are denied. You don't have agency to do that. And in 2022, these are big stories at that time. Rashmi Sawant, who was discriminated at Oxford University, or the famous Cisco case. And today, Sundar Iyer is coming to Houston and talking about his experiences in this particular case, and so on. So we got many, many identities under attack. And people like these, I'm just not going to name them, but you can see their faces. There are attacks on Hindu organizations and defamation suits are out there. And there are conferences to dismantle what they call global Hindutva, whereas it's a fig leaf for the hatred of all Hindus. There is no dichotomy between their reference to Hindus and Hindutva. And so this kind of hypocrisy should be exposed. But this is an attack on Hindus, and cultural identities under attack. Whether you go to universities, you have all these universities against Holi, against Diwali, against this ones, against Hindutva, and so on and so forth. You see, there is a cancel culture unleashed on Hindu expertise. The identity of Hindus is attacked on universities, the textbook controversies that we have, and many, many, many issues are there. And I say 5 frameworks that are controlling our the narration of Indian history and identity: the colonial, Eurocentric, missionary, socialist academia, and the Marxists. And if you take a look at this one, these people are outsider frameworks. All are outsider frameworks. They come with a fundamental idea: Christianity is only true religion, white people are superior to others. Whereas these people come with the idea that by destroying the old order, you can create a classless utopian society. In India, that old order is Hinduism. And so by or Sanatana Dharma, by destroying it, they can do this. And so these are all the kind of problems that is there. Dravidianism, in addition, in southern India, deraciated framework that shares some of this ideology. And this is the reason why our history is distorted, as well as our identity is misrepresented. Because every one of these people over here have got an ideology to propagate over here. And so how do you protect your identity? You got to nurture, develop, and grow it. And there are many, many ways. Your identity, you might destroy your unwanted personal records, use difficult password, encryption, firewall, legal action against defamation, and things like that. And as far as your food, you might eat food as medicine, or else you have to eat medicine as your food, right? So eat sattvika foods in accordance with Ayurvedic health directives. And identity for relationships, you respect your relationships, nurture your relationships, you grow community strength through knowledge. These items are difficult, but still you can try for that. Seek solutions that align with Dharma. Fight your battles wisely. Know when to maintain a strategic silence. Know when to challenge. Appeal to logic, rationality, and fairness. For example, in the classroom, tell the teacher, please turn to the section where they talk about Christianity. Please turn to the section where they're talking about Islam. Now, please go to the section where they're talking about Hindus. Do you see there's a problem here? Call it out in class. Be bold and call it out so other students too understand there's an unequal way of representing in this, and challenge the cancel mob mentality. Again, these are not easy, but these are things we can do. And be aware of issues, even in classrooms. Talk to parents, community leaders, read on these issues, see videos of thought leaders, understand where these bigoted narratives come from. I give you a hint, 5 frameworks. Challenge them in class. Ask parents to challenge. Appeal to fairness of representation. Appeal to honesty of portrayal. Appeal to new research on history. And parents must escalate to school boards to change. Advise new coming generations about these issues. Fight for a healthy identity and boycott colleges that encourage bigotry, like Rutgers and other such places. Maybe there are other places you can go and write to them saying there's a reason why you're not coming there. And There are ways to defend your religious identity also. This is Deepa Bhaskaran, who's got some excellent videos over there on teaching Vedanta to children. And Shishu Bharati is a place in Boston where I gave this talk. So they build that foundation by learning fundamentals of Vedanta, practices, culture, engage where necessary with the public on correcting misconceptions. So you continue learning, which is Brahma Yajna basically. Read the work of thought leaders. So many works are there in Google. There is no excuse saying you don't have the books. They're expensive to buy. So many things are for free on Google. You can just take them. See the works on thought leaders. Defend other Hindus. When you see a Hindu getting bullied or attacked, don't stay quiet. Go to the rescue, stand with them and say, I am with you. And so you got to put into practice what you learn. And Deepa calls this Pancha Mahayajna. Deva Yajna, devotion to divinities. Pitru Yajna, devotion to elders and ancestors. Bhuta Yajna, to animals. This Manushya Yajna, kindness to fellow humans. Brahma Yajna, seeking and disseminating knowledge. We can practice a little bit of this every day. And this itself is an expression of your identity as a Sanatan Dharmic person. And you can put these things to practice. So Deepa's got some wonderful videos over there. So please do take a look at her videos. And speak in your native language as a way of asserting your identity. Learn about Hindu festivals from your parents. If they don't teach you, again, go to Google and try to learn from there why we celebrate what Hindu festival and why. And congregate and celebrate festivals, even in your home, if the family is such that you don't celebrate it over there. Try to congregate in temples or public spaces or in other friends' houses where they celebrate it and learn to celebrate those festivals. These are for children growing up over here. Learn traditional cuisines. These arts are dying out, so try to learn them from your parents, grandparents, or even recipes you might find online. Sample, practice, and live the cuisines. So don't reject them. So try to do that. Learn traditional arts. Today, only our girls go to learn Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi and other things. The boys are left out over here. We need to find ways that they also have a chance to express these things. Wear traditional attire at events. Wear cultural marks wherever it's appropriate. Address critiques with firmness and confidence. Educate the peers who are ignorant and defend other Hindus who are bullied and attacked. And this would be one way you defend your identity. And there are many talks. For example, here I'm plugging my own talks, but there are a couple of them on Indian civilization, untold story, and learn this evidence-based history, and that will help you to make a case to. And can I take a couple of more minutes, Sukanyaji?
Yes, absolutely.
So I try to give this at a very high level. I say that in India, we got so many pramanas shown over here. Whether it is through the pramana means what is the metric through which I discriminate a statement as true or false? What is the basis or authority with which I accept something as valid? So this is what we call as darshanas in India. Very well evolved schools of philosophies are out there, and we can reduce them to these areas: pratyaksha and perception, anumana inference, upamana comparison analogy, postulation, negative proof, non-perception, and shabda pramana. And all these schools, Samkhya, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, Advaita, can be classified in terms of which are admitted as valid paths. For example, if you go to Vaisheshika, it only takes perception and inference. By the time you get to Advaita, it takes a whole lot of other things too. Differences like Charvakas, Buddhism, Jainism, Advaita, these are all small differences between what is valid and what is not valid. So in the Indic tradition, our every sampradaya says acquire knowledge. Your goal of life is to dispel avidya about your existence, and the process to do that is to gain knowledge. How do you gain knowledge? By reading the works and by understanding what is valid, what is invalid. Based on the sampradaya you're born into, you do certain things, and perhaps through multiple lifetimes, you might accomplish what is Brahman, what we call Vedanta's Brahman. So we can, at an archaic language, we can say Hindus are those who we can classify as thou shalt seek. We are seekers. In contrast with the larger public out there, or Abrahamic, whether they are Jewish or whether they are Christian or whether they're Muslims, They follow a divine dictated law. Somebody gave the law. Archangel Gabriel came to a cave and gave somebody a law. And so that is codified in some book. And so they follow one book, one way, and one God. That is their way of life. Or somebody comes and say, I'm the only way to the Father is through the Son. Or somebody says, I made a covenant with God, and these are the covenant, we are the chosen people, and those kind of things. So they have to, their only goal in life is to follow a divine dictated law, their heaven in the afterlife, or eternal damnation. Forever and ever you're damned in the afterlife. This is their belief. They don't care about science. They don't care about truth. They don't care about anything. That is why you have the imagery of he's the shepherd and you're the sheep. Don't question. Just follow the shepherd. That is a powerful imagery in one of the Abrahamic systems. And the other one, if you question, I'm going to cut off your neck because that's blasphemy. So don't question fear or this kind of thinking. Science does not matter. Truth does not matter. Philosophy does not matter. Nothing matters. Your only goal in life is to follow the divine dictated law. If you can articulate this and say, this is a difference between a Sanatan Dharmic person and an Abrahamic person. We are seekers. We question everything. In our quest for the truth, we question everything. We are natural scientists. This is who we are. And show instances from this, you are on your way to expressing your identity. So this is a very important slide that I talk about in all the children's gatherings that I have to try and explain this difference so they're able to do this. And I show that knowledge systems flourished in India because of this kind of an approach. Knowledge is not blasphemy. In these areas, knowledge is blasphemy. For example, when Charles Darwin came with this theory of evolution, such a huge uproar was there all over the United States and other places saying this is blasphemy because God created man perfectly in his image. That is there in the Old Testament. And how can you go against this? There's no evolution. And so on and so forth. So you cannot challenge over there. So science cannot flourish. That is why they need secularism. They need separation of state and church. And they need universities to flourish without any input on religion and such things. Because they accept in their mind this religion is something you just blindly believe. And if you want to progress in science, you must question. And this is the way you do it. But we don't have any such need over here because we naturally question everything. Anyway, so I think I will stop over there. So the point is explore your identity in all its dimensions. Learn your dharma to each dimension. I might be, for example, a parent. I might be a brother of somebody. I'm a son of somebody. I am an uncle to somebody, or I'm a friend to somebody. I'm an employee at this company. So I'm wearing many, many hats to have dharma. And I need to understand that and I need to follow that. And just as you protect your obvious dimensions, protect the cultural, religious dimension also. Build knowledge about your civilization, explore and live your identity fully as a dharmic individual. So this is the essence of the talk that I gave. I'll stop sharing over here. And so I hope that answers your question. Why should parents care about identity? That was your question. To answer that question, I gave you this big talk over here. And there are many reasons why you need to do it. If you neglect this, there are severe consequences your child might face in school. You'll be unaware because children don't share much at homes what is going on. But you'll find they become sullen, they become moody, they become withdrawn, depressed, don't want to go to school, their performance has fallen. And all Indian parents want their kids to go to Ivy League schools, right? And so that might not happen because he's depressed, he can't study, he's falling behind. And what is worse, you might seek solace in things that give you instant happiness, drugs and other such things, or even worse, depression and suicide. I've heard about Indian kids in communities committing suicide over here. All these things stem from lack of expressing your identity in a healthy way. So we need to help our children in every way possible to understand their identity through evidence, knowledge, without patronizing them, and then help them to express that identity in a very friendly way. So while there are advocacy groups doing this at the political level, this battle has to happen at the home level and within ourselves. And I'm hopefully doing some things in this space to help people with these things.
No, that was a beautiful answer, and it answered so many other things I was going to ask. one thing that kept coming into my mind is if we don't then teach our children how to understand where they come from, it affects who they think they are. So, and if you don't know what you are and who your identity, somebody else is going to give you your identity.
Right.
And we already know how it can be skewed.
Yes.
You explained how just in the history books, you know, it looks
Right.
so different. That's what they're going to do. And that's what the child is going to imbibe then as their identity. And then that's going to be the false them.
Right.
And won't lead to anything good, like you said. Yes, I mean, I think that explained everything for what parents really need to think about. So that then brings me to the next question. You kind of mentioned what to do in terms of when there's false information being shared in class, the child can speak up and, you know, imbibe that confidence in them when they know what they come from. So how can parents, is there a way that you can advise parents to how they can advocate? Of course, if you have good communication, your child will probably come and tell you, or you can ask them. And hopefully you'll find out what's being taught about Bharat. But if they find out, how can a parent then advocate for the correct information?
So this process requires engagement by parents. Today's parents are so busy in their careers, double incomes, working day and night in high pressure jobs. If you're a doctor, you have a high pressure job, you don't have the time. Same thing with engineers working in high tech fields, night and day, they're working on their cutting edge projects and so on. This is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate because there isn't much time for parenting. In my daughter's generation, I've talked to so many other friends of hers whose parents turn out to be doctors, mother and father. They have no time for the children. It's very unfortunate. The lifestyle is like that. I'm not blaming these professions because they are also very needed in society. But then who takes care of children? Anyway, I don't see a way out. Parents need to make time somewhere to understand what their children are learning in the textbooks. Maybe, especially for, well, I don't say forget about science. Science is also important, but then the social studies, when they're talking about identity, try to see what is it they're talking about their identity, because this is going to shape your child's thoughts. Because if you're a busy double income family, the chances are you don't have time to practice Sanatan Dharma at home either. So the only way your kid is going to pick up things is through movies and through what they teach in class. So if you find that there is an unequal representation in textbooks, you as a parent can go to the teacher. Most teachers are not ideologically bent. I mean, teachers are stressed too. They want somebody to help them with the class material. If you go with supplementary material, they'll be very happy. If you come and talk in their classroom, I think they'll be happy for that also. So you go to the teacher and say, look, take a look at this page in Christianity. Take a look at this page in Judaism. Why is it that Sanatan Dharma is presented like this? So let the teacher become aware, because you need to sensitize them to start with. Once they're sensitized, they may want the next step. How can I correct this? They're not equipped to do that. So HPN can help, for example, by forming packages for each textbook. In different school districts, different books may be used. Over there, they can say, here is a two-page present caste. This is what you can do. When the present women's treatment, this is what you can do. So like this, we can have various two-page handouts and things like that for the teachers, where teachers can use. So parents, there is no shortcut. You have to read what your children are learning in classroom. Even if your child is not communicative, you read the textbook and you take the initiative to go talk to the principal, talk to the teachers, and tell them this is what you can do. And reach out to maybe HPN, HAF, KONA, and so many other organizations and advocacy. Hopefully, these groups have collated materials on these things, and you use these materials in classrooms. This is my suggestion.
Thank you very much. Definitely, we are working on those things as well, what you've mentioned. And the message that I got from what you said is for the parents to get involved, be involved at home, practice what you want your child to, you know, build as their identity, because they're learning from you from the beginning. You're the first teacher, right? So the next thing, you brought this up as you were answering about the caste system. What is being taught about caste system? And we've seen a lot of attacks on the diaspora with these, bogeyman kind of things that they have. If you're talking about Hindus, oh, it's the caste, oh, it's the sati, oh, it's this. How do you counter that? How do you help your child understand what is this all about? Because most kids are not aware.
Yes. Yes, this is an uphill battle because there's so much of disinformation out there. It's a real uphill battle. I don't know how to present this in a short talk to you because there's so much I've talked about this in my talks. So maybe this should be a subject of a dedicated meeting just to talk about this issue. But at a very high level, I start with saying I cannot have a discussion on the basis of caste because I don't know what that is. Indians only have Jati, Varna, Kulam, Gotra. Jati, Varna, Kulam, Gotra. These are traditional identities, if you will, identities, and we don't know what caste is. And everybody here knows caste is an alien word imposed on us from the Portuguese experience of casta, was force fed on Indians through late 1800s, early 1900s onwards, the British census and other such things. This has been force fed on us. This has come coincidentally at a time when the British are practicing ethnocide in India. British practice ethnocide through 5 mechanisms. In my talks, I say that. One is the creation of poverty. By looting the country, they induced enormous poverty in India. That is one. Second, attacking our identity through false history because of their notions of chronology and other such things. Indian history was attacked. Third, through the creation of this notion of caste, that too has attacked our identity. And the fourth is the education system. By bringing in English, they cut off our roots with Sanskrit and other such things. Fifth, I'm trying to remember from my talks. So there are five of them. I gave you 4 of them. I'll come to the fifth one if I remember this now. So they practice these 5 mechanisms of conversions, religious conversions, attack. So these are 5 ways in which the British practiced ethnocide, and they went hand in hand at the same time. It's not one followed the other, and it's not as if they planned these 5 things. They happen organically because of the kind of prejudices they came with over here, prejudices and the greed they came with. So Indian society, from works by Angus Madison and others, we know 2000 years ago, it had about 33 to 35% of the world GDP, falling by a steady 10% over 1,000 years. That's the slope of the curve. If you imagine an XY curve, it's falling by about 10% over 1,000 years. And then we see through the Mughal, for the Delhi Sultanate, Mughal Muslim period, it is falling, but not dramatically. But when the British came to India from 1700s, from the colonialists plus the British, we see from about 24%, India fell to 4% of the world GDP through a variety of processes. The looting of India, destruction of traditional livelihood, the usurpation of Indian knowledge systems, taking them to Britain. And so Britain could get industrialized using Indian tax money to subsidize, using Indian methodology for muslin, for iron production, and things like that. So they were able to ramp up on industrialization while at the same time denying that to India to also industrialize. So India was deindustrialized from whatever it had within cotton and many other things. It was deindustrialized through impoverishment and while Britain was going on. So India experienced tremendous amounts of social stress around the time when these 5 frameworks attacked identity, who Indians are, what traditional societies were, all cohesive societies. I want you to imagine that if India was at 35% of world GDP about 2000 years ago, how could that have been done with a society that's at war with each other, where one is discriminating the other, impoverishing the other, and all this paradoxically is done by a minority of people who neither have weapons, who neither have money, who neither have power, nor do they have physical strength. Somehow this group has hegemonically controlled the minds of people, controlled them and made them work as slaves. That is what you believe if you believe caste. caste discrimination. If you believe this nonsense, this is what had happened. But we see the paradoxically, this is a cohesive society functioning with great efficiency, controlling so much of the world. Impoverishment has happened because of British activity, destruction of identity around that time. All the abuses that we are seeing today and highlighted through all is basically the distortions the British brought in. The British institutionalized this notion. For example, there was this missionary called Robert Caldwell. So he was active in Tirunelveli and other such places, and he had wanted to convert southern Indians. So he brought about the idea that this notion of Dravida, used as a geographic identifier in Indian literature, he converted that into a racial category called Dravidian. The English word Dravidian came about as a racial category introduced by him to make it distinct from this Arya, honorific, was Aryan as a racial category by Max Muller. So to complement that, he said Aryans came into India and Dravidians were the people who were suppressed in India, and Dravidians have been discriminated and harassed, suppressed, and all these kind of things, these notions he brought in. There were people called Chanars in Tamil Nadu at that time. So he wanted to show that Chanars were the original inhabitants of this place and they were severely discriminated. They're not Hindus, but they were furious. They're the people we call Tevars today. Furious. They did not want to be divorced from the Sanskritic religion, as they called it. They wanted to be part of this. This is who they were. But he had wanted to take them out by atrocity literature, showing that they discriminated against you, create anger through atrocity literature and other such things. And so they are now a target for conversion. And that strategy has worked. So many people are converted because of this anger. This anger is there in Tamil Nadu even today. Dravidianism is in bed with Christianity for the purpose of destroying Hindu Sanatan Dharma in Tamil Nadu. Bottom line, there's a lot of name of caste. One cannot deny that there have been some excesses here and there because of some chauvinism. This is a consequence of the last 100 years of distortion. Even these are regional, financial, property, other issues conflated as caste. If one were to go deep enough, one would find these things. So we have several issues. In my talks, I have tried to address this question, and I brought in a new paradigm. And the paradigm is based upon the notions. For example, if you find people saying caste, it'll obligatorily come with certain adjectives. These adjectives are oppressed, discrimination, upper, lower, hierarchical, inhumane, untouchable. All these are obligatorily bundled along with the word caste to make your mind into a certain way of thinking, right? I have taken every one of them, I have deconstructed them, and I try what is the evidence-based understanding. Let me give you just one example because it's a big topic, Sukanyaji. Hierarchical. Hierarchical is a favorite trope of these people who Brahmins at the top and bottom is the Shudras, and outside this is the untouchables. This is a favorite trope of them. Where did this come from? Where did this come from? Which Indian work is talking about this? Their favorite example is to go to the Purusha Sukta. Purusha Suktam, where this Brahman is described as head as Brahmanas and feet as Shudras, discriminatory and all those kind of things. But they don't read the passages just before that and just after that, which clearly talks about cosmology, creation, understanding that everything's interconnected and everything works in a certain way. It's a certain way a metaphorical language is used here, but this has been cast into this. But even that is not talking hierarchy. How did the hierarchy come in whose mind? If they say head is the top, nonsense. In fact, Narayana is shown lying down. Everybody is at the same level. So it is a question of top and bottom. So hierarchy came about. If we read the works of my friend Sudha Mohan, I have his book somewhere here. I wanted to show the book. I don't think I can pull it at a moment's notice. I don't think anyway, the name of the book, I have it here. This book, Shivasya Kulam. So please do buy it, like Sudha Mohan. So he's put a lot of effort to try, and you can see how well thumbed this book over here. He has taken a lot of effort to try and find out where are the origins of this hierarchy? Where did it come from? Who are the people who put this whole notion of caste to force fit all the Jati, Varna, Kulam, Gotra into one container over here? And in this container, how did they decide as a hierarchy? To address that question, he's done some research. He's taking the colonial records and showing that they used Saucha Acharam practices. They categorized people on the number of Saucha and Acharam practices that you have. The more Saucha and Acharam practices you have, they put it at the top. The lesser you have, they put it at the bottom. So this whole pyramid can be deconstructed if one has got knowledge. That's what I'd like our advocacy groups to try and appreciate. Right? This is the first point. You deconstruct every single word they use in this obligatory bundle, and you can break it down. So I have done that in several of my talks. And when we have our next meeting for 1 hour, I'll be glad to share that in detail where we can talk about it. But I have introduced a paradigm where it is a health practice, public health is an overriding reason why practices came into play, where, for example, Vastu Shastra, where the Agraharam is set up, temples over here, the potters are over here, weavers are over here, Brahmanas over here, Kshatriyas over here, and this whole thing has been cast as discrimination, and the untouchables live far away. But then I've tried to show that is not at all the case. And with proof, I've tried to show what was the reason, how health is an overriding concern in a tropical place like India, where every year at monsoon time, you got enormous numbers of waterborne diseases, whether it's dysentery, cholera, malaria, TB, all these things are prevalent in India. Our rishis are not watching this idly, watching, village after village falling to epidemics. They understood. They understood the reasons for these things, and they've got prescriptions. Those have become codified over here. I know I'm not presented enough information here to give a full picture. So because it's out of context, it might look a little bizarre, but please bear with me. The next time we talk, I will talk. So that's all in context. You'll understand the context clearly.
Absolutely, definitely. That would be wonderful to actually really get into the crux of it, to get a thorough understanding. I'm not sure how much time you have, because I have many.
6 minutes, you can stop. It's 11:24 here. I'd like to break at 11:30.
Sure. So then let me ask something about completely different from what we've been discussing, something that has happened recently, the solar eclipse.
Oh.
Yes, and I want to get your thoughts about, because I do not have enough information and I don't know where to get it, as to what are the aspects and what does our Dharmic thought process, as well as the knowledge that our rishis have given us, what does it say about these things that happen in the cosmos, and how does it affect us? How does it affect everything around us?
So there are two address this question. One is the scientific aspect. One of the earliest mentions we have of eclipses is in Rig Veda. The Rishi Atri, associated with having seen a solar eclipse, and one might wonder, why are you immortalized in the Rig Veda for seeing an eclipse? Millions of people see it, so why is that important? So Tilak has explained this, saying that Atri made you Rishi Atri, yes, Balagangar Tilak, yes,
Okay,
Tilak.
okay.
So he explains that the verse in the Rig Veda refers to a Turiya Yantra, the fourth quadrant, which Sayanacharya described as the fourth prayer, but in his Bhashya. But Tilak has said that he made use of a quadrant. Quadrants are things you use to measure angles in the sky. I've explained in my talks how the path of the sun and the moon, apparent path, because if you think that sun is going around the earth and moon is going around the earth, their orbits are offset by 5 degrees. The moon's orbit and the sun's ecliptic. So this angle means eclipses can happen only when these coincide. One side a solar eclipse, other side a lunar eclipse, when these orbits coincide. So in order to predict it, you must understand the angular relationship between the sun and the moon. So if you're able to use this quadrant is like a protractor that our children use in geometry class, right? It's like that, but you can use it to measure angles in the sky. So if you were to use one of these devices, you understand that the angle is coming towards zero. And as the angle is coming towards zero, you'll be in a position to predict that the next Amavasya, there is going to be a total eclipse or a partial eclipse and so on. So Aryabhatta has described this beautifully. He's calling one side as Rahu, the other side as Ketu, ascending nodes and descending nodes over here, clarifying what leftists love to throw things at Indian science, right? Saying Indians are superstitious nonsense belief. They believe Rahu is a demon swallowing the eclipse. No, it was a shallow understanding the metaphoric content here, which Aryabhatta has explained beautifully. Rishi Atri himself has used a device to predict, model, understand when the eclipse will happen, which means a total understanding of the phenomena. That is why he's recounted in the Rig Veda that he's able to predict when the eclipse will happen through this quadrant. So this is one aspect of understanding eclipse. The other is cultural practices that live till today in traditional families, which say first, do not look at the eclipse. Second, don't eat food that is prepared before the eclipse. Third, after eclipse, you have a bath. Fourth, pregnant women don't go outside and don't get exposed to the eclipse. So these are cultural practices in India. And obviously, it has all been cast as superstition, and popular science says there is no impact, no effect, or no such thing, and so on. But I have once again expressed caution over here and said that one must once again cast this into the health aspect and try to see what is it that our ancestors have seen. I place great faith in the collective wisdom over thousands of years. We have got experiential wisdom that has accumulated over thousands of years. I will never poo-poo that, saying that this is all nonsense, because there is some element of truth to that. So if we look at very briefly, look at science, we know that when the sun is shining, sun has got broadband radiation. If you look at the electromagnetic spectrum from one extreme to the other, it's got enormous amounts of radiation that's going in all energy levels over here. Some of this comes and hits us on the outer layers of the earth. It forms, we have something called ionosphere, because the cosmic rays hit the air molecules there, ionize them, and because of the ionization effect, other rays are scattered outside the earth. They are deflected away from the earth. So in sunlight, when there's sunlight, we are protected by the ionosphere. At night time, the reverse happens. When there's no sun, the ionosphere thins out. But there is also no sun to bombard us with UV rays and cosmic rays and things like that. So fortunately, it works well for us. Now, what happens is at the time of an eclipse, total eclipse especially, the sun is blocked out totally. You have a thinning of the ionosphere at that instant under the shadow of the moon. And through the other rays, you can have deflected extra delta radiation, cosmic rays coming on Earth. Question is, can that delta means additional radiation, can that impact health? Popular science says no. Our traditional wisdom says yes. Our traditional wisdom does not understand cosmic rays. It has experienced some of these things. It's saying, yes, there is an impact. Don't eat the food. Change your clothes, wash your clothes, and have a bath, and don't allow pregnant women to go out, because they've observed certain things over here. To give you an example, we know that today, if you go on a flight, let's say you go on a flight, you're flying to India from USA, you're going to experience increased radiation when you're in flight as compared to when you're on ground. Commercial air traffic, to make it possible, people have said that delta is not very relevant, and pilots and air hostesses don't seem to have too much of ill health, hopefully. So this delta is not that serious. But we do know there is a delta. So when there is, for example, a total solar eclipse, at the same time there's a solar flare, let us say, that additional thing might be harmful to health. Secondly, looking at the solar rays without protection, that can cause retinal damage. So these are some of the reasons why some of these practices are encoded into our cultural things, and it continues. So I'm not poo-pooing science. Science is very important, but the nature of science today is to try and first locate a phenomena, build a model for it, and then try to understand it through measurements. Or take a model that's proposed in the past based on a new observations and new ideas, you falsify that earlier one. This is the methods of science today. So it's a instance by instance discovery. If it doesn't exist, the phenomena is not acknowledged, people would say there is no impact over here. But even last year, there was a paper out there from China. After total eclipse there, the astrophysicists tried to measure what is the delta, what kind of impact it has in terrestrial systems and so on. Eventually, science will come to a point where it might say that, yes, there is some impact. So there's a lot to unpack over there. So there are two categories. One is the scientific aspect of eclipses. Other is the cultural health aspects of eclipses. So both are in our systems, and we need to understand them before we throw them out as superstitions and so on. And we have other aspects of that too, where the astral aspects, where people say that if you were to indeed go and see the eclipse, then you need to do some pariharam. What is a pariharam that you have to do? Pariharam means an atonement, if you will, for that. And there are several things that are prescribed in our Dharma Shastras for that, including things like dhanam, including things like others. And so, again, there could be some reasons for these things. Maybe, I'm only speculating here, maybe by taking a look at this, maybe there is some kind of, for example, if you see yesterday's newspaper, a whole lot of people have gone to emergency rooms saying they have eye pain. If you were to Google for that, eclipse, eye pain, eye strain kind of things, people are crowding emergency rooms thinking they're going blind because they're experiencing eye ache. They've seen these things. So there are some psychological effects you might have to live with. And so to assuage your mind, to put you at rest, maybe there are practices saying that practice dhanam, go and do this pariharam in this temple, go and do this. And this helps you to come to peace so you can still live a normal life. There are many ways to unpack this, Sukarnaji. So I'm speculating some here, but there are two or three angles to see this.
Thank you. That explains a lot of, well, the scientific. That was amazing to hear from you. And to almost what we say as superstition, over the years, I've felt that we say it's superstitious because we don't know how to explain it. That doesn't mean our rishis, and if it's written in the Rig Veda, and we know that they were doing science,
Right.
they were seeking questions and answers all the time. So if they were working that way, we just haven't figured out what methods they were using and what answers and why they got to it.
Precisely. So this is the irony of our civilization. We have got thousands of years of an unbroken civilization here, punctured, yes, several times, but unbroken civilization over here, where we have tremendous amounts of accumulated knowledge. But thanks to our English education system and our disconnect from Sanskritic literature from about 1800s onwards, we rely on these translations by Griffith, by H.H. Wilson and other such people to learn about our Puranas and Vedas and so on. And these translations are motivated. They came with the idea to show you as a superstitious, backward, primitive lot. And so we have got the difference anxiety, engulfed in us, and we continue with this kind of a thinking. I always say in my talks, Indians spoke in metaphoric language. If you have the key to unlock the wisdom, that wisdom becomes clear to you. If you don't have the key to unlock the silly mythology, superstition, and so on, it's a pedestrian level understanding where you don't understand the metaphor. So it's very, very important to realize that anybody who comes and disses the ancient wisdom as primitive superstition, they really are expressing their ignorance and pedestrian level understanding. One has got to seek the key. Gurus normally had those keys. People who explained these had the keys. But now today we are lost. Even our gurus are lost, much of it. So we got to painstakingly see that, reconcile with science, and try to see this is the key that fit, and try to understand. This caste to public health is one such paradigm that I've introduced over here with science.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Do you have 2 minutes for one last question?
Sure, let's go for it.
Okay, so since today's Baisakhi and now a new year is starting, I wanted to find out, why do we have so many calendars? And why was our calendar abandoned? Because it has so much.
So this is a big answer. So I don't think I have enough time to talk to you with the answer. But in brief, we have got lunar calendars and we have got solar calendars. Certain things like the vernal equinox that is used to peg the new year in India always, that has been a solar calendar based entity. And certain other things are based on the nakshatra, when something goes to Paurnami, when some fourth day from Paurnami, fifth day from Paurnami, and so on. We have got certain markers that we follow. Those are the festivals that move with time, and some that don't move with time, and so on. So we've got two kinds of systems. And even the lunar calendar, we have got regions in India where they used Amavasya as the indicator, and some other places in India where they use Paurnami as indicator. In other words, every nakshatra that we have, there are 27 nakshatras, right? Nakshatras that I'll talk about this maybe in a future talk, but these are divisions of the sky, and we have got 27 divisions of the sky. The moon resides in one nakshatra every day. In a 24-hour period, it traverses 13 and 1/3 degrees. So it takes approximately 27 days to finish one full rotation. Now, when the full moon appears over a particular nakshatra, it lends the name to that month. For example, Chitra is one nakshatra. If the full moon appears in Chitra nakshatra, it's called the Chaitra Masa. So like this, we've got lunar months in addition. In northern India, in some places, they use full moon. In southern India, in western India, they use the Amavasya, which is a new moon. So it's the Purni Amanta or the Amanta month. So you have 15 days staggering between the lunar months. That's why some festivals are offset here and there because of this. There are other reasons also why we can slip on festivals. What are they commemorating? For example, Makara Sankranti. Is it talking about sun entering to Makara Sankranti, or is it talking about winter solstice? If it is talking about winter solstice, we are slipped in time from December 22nd to January 14th. We are slipped in time. If it is talking about the entry into Makara Sankranti, into the constellation called Capricorn, even there we are slipped in time by about 6 days or so. So there are reasons for that, scientific reasons. So maybe next time we talk, we can talk about this in addition. That's the reason why we have a host of dates out there for different festivals. It all adds to the cultural richness of who we are as a people. We are not monolithic. We have dharma, we got karma, we got reincarnation. These are our common assets over here. In this nice mix, we got Indian knowledge systems, tremendous. In our shared heritage, we've got Brahmanas, we got the Vedas, we got the Aranyakas, we got a whole lot of literature from northern India till southern India, Sangamira works and other such things. Tremendous amounts of shared heritage to celebrate this richness, lots of richness.
There's so many questions that have come up, but we'll leave it for another time. And that tells me that you are open to coming back and
Certainly am.
Thank you so much. And before we end, just a little Shanti mantra.
Sure.
Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.